So good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the class. Just let me discuss about this question. This question appeared in one of the examinations. So explain briefly design steps followed while designing laterally supported beam as per IS 800 2007. So this one you are supposed to know. You know this already. The reason is we have solved some 2 or 3 problems. Is it not? So 1 second, please. So you know this. It is a matter of writing those design steps, okay, in wordings, in different points. So that's what I'm going to discuss here. Then after discussing this, you'll also get some overall picture about the design so that, when you are given a problem to design, so you can design easily. So let us go with the first step. Service loads on the beam are calculated. The service loads include both dead and live loads. These loads are multiplied by appropriate load factors to determine the design load. So what it means is, if you remember the first problem I solved in the design of beams, the total load was already given. And in the subsequent problems, the total load was not given. You were given only the live load and the dead load. Or the live load was given as per the codal recommendation. And instead of giving the dead load, you are given what was the slab thickness, finishing thickness, and all those things. Those details were given. And based on that, you calculated the total load, that is dead load and live load. Then you multiplied that value by a load factor of 1.5, okay, to arrive at the design load. So where do we get the load factor from? So go to table 29. Just in this question, I'm going to discuss certain things, certain additional things. So table 4 on page 29. Go to page 29 on table 4. I hope you are on that page. So under that it says load combination, that is combination. That means it is load combination. Next, limit state of strength and limit state of serviceability. So under limit state of strength, DL and LL. You don't worry about the earthquake load and wind load. WL stands for this one, wind load. EL stands for earthquake load. So you don't worry about it. So we will only worry about the dead load and the live load. So in the first line in the table, it says DL plus LL plus CL. That is dead load, or LL stands for live load or imposed load, and CL stands for crane load. So we don't care about the crane load because it is not applicable in our case. So under dead load and live load combination, for the dead load, we are going to make use of a factor of 1.5. Okay. Next comes the live load, LL value. So it has 2 parts. One is leading and the other is accompanying. You don't worry about the accompanying load. Okay, you only worry about the leading load. So under live load, accompanying means it is like secondary load under live load. It happens very rarely in certain cases. So you don't have to worry about that accompanying load. You only worry about the leading load. So for the leading load, the factor is 1.5. So for both the dead load and the live load, the factor is the same. That is 1.5 and 1.5. That's why we are going to find out dead load and live load. We are going to add them together. Then we are going to multiply that value by 1.5. Okay. So in some cases, you'll have a different factor for dead load and some other factor for live load. So in such cases, say for example, for dead load, the factor is 1.25, and for the live load, it is 1.75, hypothetically speaking. Then what we do is, we are going to calculate the dead load separately, and we are going to calculate the live load separately, and we are going to multiply the dead load by 1.25, which is the load factor for the dead load, and we are going to multiply the live load by 1.75. That is 1.75 is the load factor for live load. So after multiplying the dead load and live load individually with their respective load factors, so we are going to add those numbers to arrive at the design load. Okay. So in this case, as I said, we have the same load factor for both dead and live loads. So we are going to add those loads first, then we are going to multiply whatever the final load by 1.5 to arrive at the design load. Okay. So afterwards, what we do is, so we are going to calculate the design bending moment. Normally, in our case, it's a simply supported beam. In case of a simply or cantilever beam. So for the UDL, for a simply supported beam, maximum bending moment we are going to get is WL square by 8, and we are going to represent that by M max, or else you can represent that by M suffix U. So there are different ways you can represent. So U stands for ultimate, or also design, or factored. So find out M max. If it's a cantilever, then WL multiplied by L by 2, that is WL square by 2 will give you the maximum bending moment that occurs at the support. Okay, once M max is calculated, that is the design bending moment, we can calculate the design shear force, which is V max, or else you can call that as V suffix U. So there are two ways or different ways you can call that. So now the maximum moment is calculated and the maximum shear force is calculated. Afterwards, what we need to do? We need to select a section. So to select a section, we go to page number 53 and under 8.2.1.2, page number, open page number 53, please. When I keep talking, please look at the code book and listen to me and look at the code book. So it will be easy for you to understand. Open page number 53 under 8.2.1.2. So by assuming that those two conditions are satisfied, what are those two conditions? So D by TW should be less than equal to 67 epsilon, and also the section is subjected to low shear. With that assumption, we are allowed to make use of the formula given under 8.2.1.2, which is MD equal to beta B ZP Fy divided by gamma MO. Is it not? So in this case, again, by assuming whatever the section we are going to select to be compact or plastic, we can take beta B equal to 1. Okay, once beta B equal to 1, again in place of MD, after beta B equal to 1, substitute that value. In place of MD, we are going to substitute the value of maximum bending moment, that is the design bending moment, and Fy, we know that steel is 250 Newton per millimeter square. Gamma MO is 1.10. Okay, as per the table 5 on page 30. Okay, then find out what is ZP. ZP is going to be the value required to withstand that design bending moment. So we are going to call that ZP as ZP required. Okay, so once that ZP required value is calculated, express that value in centimeter cube. Why we are going to express that value in centimeter cube? If you go to the steel table under annexure H on page 138 of the code book, that section module, plastic section modulus is given in centimeter unit. Okay, so whatever ZP required in centimeter cube you got, and select a section on that page, Annexure H on page 138 and 139. And when you are looking for a section, you have to look for the ZPZ value, which is located last but one column of the code book. Okay, there you select a section or ZPZ value in such a way that that value, ZPZ value you are going to select is greater than or at least equal to ZP required value. So when you are selecting a section, you can select ISHB, ISLB, ISMB, ISWB, whatever is convenient for you, you can select. Okay, then you need to do all those checks. Once a section is selected, then you have to check for D by TW, whether it is less than equal to 67 epsilon, and also we need to check whether it's a compact section or plastic section or semi-compact section. Okay, once the section is selected. So here, once that section is selected, we go for section classification. So what is section classification? We are going to select and decide whether the section is a compact section, semi-compact section, or a plastic section by checking half the width of the flange to the thickness, and also by checking the value of D by TW and comparing those values with the values given under page 18 in table 12. Okay, so there we are going to decide whether the section we have selected belongs to, again, semi-compact, compact, or plastic. Okay, so I told this already, I'm going to tell you once again. That is, if flange is plastic and the web is, say, compact, then the overall section is going to be compact. You always go for lower one. If the flange is plastic, if the web is semi-compact, then the overall section is semi-compact. So in the order, plastic is the highest. Okay, because the entire section is going to yield, and it will have the entire section is going to reach its full moment capacity by yielding completely. So that full moment capacity is MP. And once the plastic hinge is formed, so then that hinges will have rotation. But in case of compact section, the entire section is going to yield, but it will not be having any moment capacity. Instead, it buckles. In semi-compact section, only the extreme fibers will reach their yield value. Afterwards, the section buckles. So that's why said plastic is the highest, compact comes below that, semi-compact comes below that slender section comes, so you don't have to worry about the slender section. Okay, once the section is selected, then we are going to go for this check, the web is checked. See here, I have written this arrow, okay, 1 second. So just take this arrow out, because this I just mark like this. 1 second, please. Take this arrow out and retain the steps as they are. Okay, before I had moved this steps, 6 to this place. Don't do that. Let it be like that. Okay, so afterwards we are going to check the web whether D by TW is less than or equal to 67 epsilon. Once that condition is met, then the code says go to 8.2.1.2. That means we are allowed to make use of the formula given under 8.2.1.2. Okay. So then again, to make use of the formula MD equal to beta B ZP Fy divided by gamma MO, we have to satisfy one more condition, that is low shear or high shear condition. So what is a low shear condition? So find out what is Vmax, that is the maximum shear force the section is subjected to, that happens at the support. Once you find out the maximum shear force due to the design load, find out the capacity of the section, shear capacity of the section, okay, using the formula Vd equal to AB Fy divided by root 3 divided by gamma MO. Okay, that is given in page number 59. So once the value of Vd is obtained, so multiply this value by 0.6. So 0.6 Vd is the dividing line between high shear or low shear. If Vmax value is less than 0.6 Vd, then the design shear is going to be of low shear value. Okay. If that value exceeds 0.6 Vd, that is Vmax value exceeds 0.6 Vd, then it is a case of high shear. Then the effect of shear is going to reduce the moment carrying capacity of the section. So the shear should be taken into consideration to find out the moment capacity of the section. Okay. So find out, before that, check for shear. So Vd should be greater than equal to Vmax. So once this is done, the section is safe against shear failure. Okay. Then when we go for bending check, here we check for low shear or high shear as I explained just now. See here, if Vmax is less than equal to 0.6 Vd, it is a case of low shear. Okay. Then if it is a case of low shear, then you can use this formula. Okay. So that should be less than this value. So where MD is the design bending moment capacity of the section. Okay. Of the section you have selected, that is MD. Of course, that should be less than or equal to 1.2 ZeFy divided by gamma MO. So out of these two, whichever is less, take that value. If it is a simply supported beam. So there is one more thing I should have placed, that is if it is a cantilever beam, so a beta B ZP Fy divided by gamma MO should be less than or at most equal to 1.5 Ze Fy divided by gamma MO. So if you look at page number 53, under 8.2.1.2, so you will see that in the paragraph just below the formula, for a cantilever it should be less than or equal to 1.5 ZeFy divided by gamma MO. Okay. So in this case, in this equation, what is the value of beta B? If the section is plastic or compact, take beta B equal to 1. What if the section is semi-compact? If the section is semi-compact, then what you do is you find out the value of beta B by dividing ZE value by ZP value. Okay. So you are going to get this from the steel table, that is ZE value, or else you can go to page number 138 of the code book, find out what is ZE value. When I say ZE here, it is actually ZEZ. And also get the value of ZPZ. Find out what is the value of beta B, that is always less than 1. Okay. So put that beta B value in this equation. to find out what is MD. Okay. So that is in case of low shear, we can make use of this formula only if the section is subjected to low shear. I am repeating. What if it is subjected to, the section is subjected to high shear? What is high shear? If Vmax value, that is the design shear force, is due to the design load coming on the beam is greater than 0.6 times the design capacity of the section, then it's a case of high shear, and the presence of shear will have a significant effect on the moment carrying capacity of the section. Then the shear should be taken into consideration to find out what is the new moment carrying capacity. So for high shear, if you look at again page number 53, first column, go at the end, you will see 8.2.1.3 that says this condition, Vmax is greater than 0.6 Vd. Then if you go to the next column on page 53, if you look at the top, you will see this, MD equal to MdV. That is new design bending capacity of the section equal to MdV. So what is MdV? MdV should be calculated. Where do we calculate? Again, we go to page number 70, 9.2.2 to find out what is MdV. Okay. If you go to page number 70, you will see two types under 9.2.2. For plastic or compact section, whatever the formula I have written here, okay, under A, plastic or compact section on page 17. If you go a little bit below that, you see B, semi-compact section. So to find out MdV value, again I repeat, for a plastic or compact section, so we are using this formula as per the codal recommendation, sorry. So let me erase this. See, if it is a plastic or compact section, we are going to make use of this formula. Okay. If it is for semi-compact section, we are going to make use of this formula. Okay. So going further, for high shear, MdV equal to MD minus beta B MD minus MFD. And of course, that should be less than equal to 1.2 ZFY divided by gamma M. So find out what is MdV. To find out what is MdV, we need all these things. Is it not? So what is MD value? MD value is the value we calculate from this directly. To know MdV, find out this value. MD value using beta BZPFY divided by gamma MO. And we are going to make use of that value here or substitute that value here. And what is B? Sorry, beta. Beta is 2 Vmax divided by Vd. That is given in the code. Is it not? So instead of giving Vmax, they are given V, where V is the design shear load or shear force. Vd is the design shear capacity. How do you calculate that design shear capacity? So again, you go to page number 59, wherein it is, the value is Fy divided by root 3 multiplied by H multiplied by Tw, thickness of the web. So by substituting those values, get the value of beta, then MD is known, so that is calculated in this formula by substituting the values in this formula. And what is MFD? MFD is the flange moment capacity. So how do we calculate the flange moment capacity? Again, page 70. Look at the code book. Okay. So what we do here is, we have the flanges, forget about the web portion. What is the flange area? Whether it is this one, compression flange or tension flange, it is the same. So flange area is width of the flange multiplied by the thickness of the flange will give you the flange area multiplied by Fy divided by gamma MO. That gives the force in the compression flange or yield force multiplied by the lever arm will give you MFD value. What is that lever arm? Lever arm is the distance between the centroid of the top flange, okay, between the centroid of the top flange and the centroid of the bottom flange. That is the lever arm. So how do you get MFD? Again, I repeat, area of the compression or tension flange, because they are one and the same value wise, okay, multiplied by Fy divided by gamma MO multiplied by the lever arm will give you the value of MFD. So by substituting the values, you can get what is MDV value. Once the MDV value is calculated, you go back and substitute the value of MDV here in this place. Then we get the value of new MD. Okay, that is the design bending capacity of the section. So definitely that is going to be less than this value. That means we have taken the effect of shear into consideration. So due to the presence of high shear, the bending moment capacity of this section has reduced. Okay. So for semi-compact section, MDV equal to this one. So use this formula. And once MDV is calculated, so substitute the value of MDV here in this equation. Where is that? Here in this equation, and find out what is the design capacity of this section. Once that is done, you compare that value with the maximum bending moment, that is the design maximum bending moment under the design load. So MD should be greater than or at least equal to Mmax value for the section to be safe. If the section is not safe, go ahead and revise the section, that is increase the section or pick up a different section, so as to make it safe against bending. Okay. So now the selected section is, check for bending, it is safe. Check for shear, it is safe. The next condition is to check for deflection. So what is the actual deflection? What is the allowable deflection? So what is the actual deflection? Depending on the type of load. If it is a cantilever beam, the maximum deflection happens at the free end. Okay. So find out what is the maximum deflection at the free end using the formula WL to the power of 4 divided by 8 EI. Is it not? I hope you remember that formula. Okay. And that should be compared with L by 150. That is the allowable deflection, where L is the span or length of the cantilever. If it is a simply supported beam, the maximum deflection is 5 by 384 WL to the power of 4 divided by EI. So find out that actual deflection and compare that with allowable deflection, which is L by 300 in our case. So the actual should always be less than or at most equal to the allowable. Then only the section is adequate as far as the deflection is considered. That means deflection condition is satisfied. So where do you get that, span divided by 300, span divided by 150? You are going to get it on page 31 under table 6. I've explained you how to, read that table to pick up the values. So afterwards, check for web buckling and web crippling. So again, for web buckling, we are going to go for page number 67 under 8.7.3.1. Okay, check for web buckling and find out what is FCDW. So that should be greater than the concentrated load where we are checking. So concentrated load may be coming from the top, or the support reaction is also a concentrated load. So in our case, normally the load will be this one, UDL. The concentrated load we are going to get is going to be at the supports. Okay, so here Vmax is the concentrated load. So when it comes to buckling strength of the web, we are going to find out what is the design force. Okay, so FCDW is the design compressive force of the web, and of course that should be greater than Vmax value. Then only we can say the section is good enough to take care of the load. Okay, so has to avoid buckling of the web. Next, check for web crippling. Web crippling happens in the vicinity or closest to the concentrated load. So I have shown you in the one of the previous classes about web buckling and web crippling. Web crippling happens only at the point of concentrated load, very close to the concentrated load, and it happens at the bottom or at the top. Here it happens at the bottom because the reaction will be acting from down. That is a concentrated load. So check for that condition. That is, find out FW as per the formula given under 8.7.4 on page 67 of the code book, and make sure that FW is greater than Vmax. So then only you can say the section is safe against web crippling failure. Okay, so after these checks, you can say, okay, provide the section of whatever you have selected. So that is the way you can declare. Is it clear to you? So this completes the steps involved in the design of a laterally supported beam. Remember, this is the design steps to design a laterally supported beam. Look at the question, laterally supported beam. We have to write the procedure. It's not laterally unsupported beam. So you don't have to worry about the laterally unsupported beam problems. However, so we have to know the procedure on how to design a laterally unsupported beam. So that's what is there in your syllabus. Okay. So laterally unsupported beam, I'm going to start from the next class. So as of now, I'm going to briefly discuss another problem, that is for laterally supported beam. Here the problem reads like this. The RCC floor of a classroom 6 meter by 12 meter is supported on beams kept at 3 meters center to center. Of course, we are going to keep the beams along short span. Okay, so the beams are simply supported at ends over a span of 6 meters and rest on 30 centimeter thick masonry walls, assuming the thickness of slab equal to 125 millimeter. Live load on slab is equal to 4 kilonewton per meter square. Design an interior beam using IS specifications. Apply all necessary checks. Okay, this is the problem given. Okay, and we need to design. So you know how to design this, is it not? So because again, here the problem does not say the beam is laterally supported or laterally unsupported. So when nothing is given, you can safely assume that the beam is laterally supported, even though we are not providing any lateral support due to the friction between the top surface of the flange, top surface of the top flange, and the concrete we are going to place. That friction does not allow the beam to move laterally, that is sideways. So if that is the case, it is laterally supported. Then when do we say it is going to be laterally supported? When you say it does not allow to move sideways, means what? What is the basis? So what the code says is, if you go to page number 53, again, on the top, in the first paragraph itself, it says, in a beam, there are two zones, tension zone and compression zone. So take the force in the compression zone, whatever the compressive force, that is Fy divided by gamma MO multiplied by the area of the I section. Okay, we'll give you the ultimate compressive force in the compression zone of the beam. Take 2.5% of it. Okay, so whatever the value you get from that calculation should be compared with the resistance developed, that is the frictional resistance developed between the top surface of the top flange and the bottom surface of the concrete. Find out. How do we find out that? Again, we are supposed to know the coefficient of friction value. That depends on the nature of the surface. Okay, we don't have that covered in IS 800. We don't have that coefficient of friction value in IS 800. There may be other code wherein we can get the value of friction. Okay, so by knowing that friction force and knowing the surface area, we can find out what is the frictional resistance. Okay, compare the 2.5% of the compressive force in the compression zone and the frictional force. When the frictional force is more than 2.5% of the compressive force, then we can say the beam is laterally supported. Okay, in this case, because nothing is mentioned, by assuming that, you can take that problem as laterally supported and design the problem as laterally supported as we did in the previous problems. Again, I repeat, in this case, the problem does not say the beam is laterally supported or unsupported. Okay, if nothing is given, you can design that as laterally supported to be on safer side. I mean, not in real design, but in the examination. So you have to design as laterally supported. Of course, laterally unsupported, it is not there in your syllabus except the procedure. Okay. So that's what this paragraph says. Because the beam is supporting an RCC slab, you can take the beam to be laterally restrained throughout the span due to the friction between the surface of the top flange and the slab bottom, or assuming that the shear connectors are provided. There is one more assumption we can make. So there are some shear connectors placed on the top of those are steel shear connectors placed on the top of the top flange, and that is cast along with the concrete. That is going to provide frictional resistance that makes the beam as laterally supported beam. Okay. So there is another problem. Simply supported beam ISMB 350 at 52.4 kg per meter is used over a span of 5 meters. The beam carries an UDL live load of 20 kilonewton per meter and dead load 15 kilonewton per meter. The beam is laterally supported throughout. Check the safety of the beam. So it is very easy. So you don't have to select a section by going into the table on page 138 of the code book. And you don't have to do all those calculations. The section is already given for you. ISMB 350 at 52.4 kg per meter. So find out what is the design capacity of ISMB 350. That is MD value. So MD value, how do you calculate? First, you need to check whether the section is plastic, compact or semi-compact. So once that check is done, you are going to use the appropriate formula in the book to find out what is MD value. Once that MD value is done, you are given the load. Live load 20 kilonewton per meter, live dead load 15 kilonewton per meter. Add those two numbers. Okay, multiply that number by 1.5 to arrive at the design load. Find out what is the maximum bending moment. So for the beam to be safe in bending, the capacity of the section, MD value, should be greater than M max value. Then only we can say the section is adequate. So, and of course, similarly, we are going to check for shear. Okay. So we are going to check, we are going to find out what is VD value, that is the design shear capacity of the section for ISMB 350 using the appropriate formula in the code book. Then we are going to compare that value with Vmax value. What is the Vmax value? WUL by 2. What is WU? That is 20 plus 15. Okay, multiplied by 1.5 will give you the UDL. Multiplied by 5 by 2, where 5 is the span. So find out maximum shear at the support and find out what is VD value. Compare those two values. Okay, and make sure that VD value is greater than Vmax. Okay, then only we can say it is safe. Of course, in between you have to do shear first, then check for high or low shear. Then accordingly, you make use of the formula. Okay, so once those two things are done, next is to check for the deflection. So again, the section details are given. UDL is given. When you are taking UDL, you get the value of service load. It is not going to be 20 plus 15 multiplied by 1.5. Instead, 20 plus 15, that is equal to 35 kilonewton per meter, is the service load on the beam. Okay, so based on that service load, find out what is the maximum deflection for the span of 5 meter. So you know the formula for UDL, that is 5 by 384 WL to the power of 4 divided by EI, and find out what is the maximum deflection which occurs at the mid span. Then once that is done, just find out what is the maximum allowable deflection as per table 6 on page 31. So what is the allowable deflection for a simply supported? So there are two things. So I take L by 300, that is span divided by 300. So compare the actual deflection with the allowable deflection and make sure that actual deflection is less than the allowable deflection. So now the deflection condition is satisfied. Okay. So once that is done, the next step we are going to do is check for web buckling and check for web crippling. Okay. Check for web buckling. Go to 8.7.31 on page 67. So draw the dispersion line at an angle of 45 degrees up to the mid height of the I section. Okay, and assume certain width of the support, and what is the dispersion width, find out, multiply that value by the thickness of the web to get the area, and consider 1 millimeter width of the web, find out what is the compressive strength of that 1 millimeter width of the column of thickness TW, that is the web thickness. So multiply that FCD value by the dispersion area And once that is done, you get the design capacity against web buckling failure. That should be greater than the shear force, maximum shear force at this support. Then only we can say web buckling, the section is not going to fail by web buckling. Similarly, check for web crippling as per 8.7.4. Here we have to draw a dispersion line at a slope of 2.5 horizontal and 1 vertical as per the codal recommendation. So check, compare that with the maximum shear force. Make sure that design strength in web crippling design strength, okay, is greater than the design shear force at the support. Design shear force is the concentrated load. Once that is done, okay, and finally, if you find all these checks are safe, then finally you can declare that as, okay, answer as ISMB 350 at 52.4 kg per meter is adequate. So that should be your final declaration. Okay. So with that, we are coming to the end of the design of laterally supported beams. Okay. So for the design of laterally unsupported beams, I'm going to this one explain only the design steps. It is complicated, let me tell you. Okay, only the design steps. So in the examination, if they give you that question, you write the design steps. You don't have to remember all those formulas. Of course, you cannot remember all those formulas. Okay. So you are supposed to know where exactly all those formulas are located. That way, if you are asked to write the design steps to design a laterally unsupported beam, so write those formulas sequentially and briefly explain those formulas. That should be good enough for you. So that is for moment capacity of the section. So the other things, yes, remain the same. And once we take up that explanation, I'm going to explain further in detail. Okay. So once that is done, we are almost done with the design of beams. In addition to that, at the end in the syllabus, so there is some, not the problem, there are some connections. So we need to discuss about. So I have done the drawing. Okay, I'm going to explain the connections like beam to beam connection, beam to column connection, okay, column to column connection, so and all those things. So I will do that at the end. Okay, with that, I'm going to end today's class. So let me stop recording.